Hello. You are listening to the Carroll Connection with your host, Jared Carroll.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Carroll Connection. I am your host, Jared Carroll, here to bring you guys another great episode. I did want to take a chance to shout out last week's episode 199 with Ray Lambert. He is a host of the Smooth podcast as well as a licensed mental health counselor and working on being like an additional life coach as well. And you could check that episode out, the carolconnection.simplecast.com. Also, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and all the major listening platforms. If you'd like to watch your podcast, go on YouTube, search the Carroll Connection or at Jared M. Carroll, and it should pop up. And if you want to be a guest or return as a guest, hit me up on Instagram at Jared M. Carroll or at the Carroll Connection, and we'll set that up. As well as right now, as you guys know, I've published the 5 Pillars to Create a Meaningful Life, available only on Amazon. And it would mean the world to me if you guys bought the book, as well as reviewed the book. Give it whatever stars, just any review helps, and purchasing the book would mean the world to me. I'm really proud of the work that I put in for this book, and it would mean everything to me. Additionally, shout out last week's episode. Well, I'm not last week's. I missed last week because I was in Vermont, and I'll probably talk about that on my birthday reflection coming up. But I also wanted to hit on the fact that today is the 200th episode of the Carroll Connection, and I'm super excited about this. And I've been working over for 5 years doing this podcast. And on my birthday reflection, I will talk to you guys more about the meaning of hitting 200, talk about the book, because I haven't really talked about the book on the podcast yet, as well as 5 years of doing the podcast. So a lot of stuff to cover on my birthday reflection episode that'll be coming out on November 5th, election day. To go out and vote, but we'll get into that at a different time. But for episode 200, bringing in my guest Riley Sullivan.
Hey guys, before we start on anything, I just want to tell anybody listening that they need to read this book or watch your birthday reflection, because the conversation me and you were just having before this podcast was great. Guys, he's a very smart guy, and he knows a lot about what he's talking about, and I would definitely read the book.
I appreciate that a lot, and that'll be the episode after this one. And it means the world if anyone checks out the solo episode. So I appreciate you even shouting that out, or the book. So Riley, how I start the podcast is I always ask everyone who they are and what they're doing currently.
So my name's Riley Sullivan. I'm a DJ and a rapper, but I'm also a full-time college student as well as a lifeguard. That's what I'm doing right now. Yeah.
Nice, and we'll get into all that about DJing and music and how that kind of came to fruition as we go through the podcast, and how I kind of told you how I like to start the conversation off is talking about family dynamic. And for anyone that's listening for the first time, I always like to explain a little bit. It's like my cliche that I give with it is when I talk about family dynamics, the reason why I talk about that is because when we think about a house, the foundation of our house is our families, whether it's good or bad, better, worse, or in the middle. I think it's important to at least talk about it because we're talking about your life story here. So we're trying to get a picture of where you come from and of things of that nature. So
Yeah, find
with
the whole story.
yeah, so with that being said, with whatever you're comfortable with sharing, I'll let you kind of take the floor with family dynamic.
Yeah, so I was born in Los Angeles, which whenever I tell people that, they don't believe me. I don't really remember being born in LA. I only lived there for a year, but basically my parents were both from Massachusetts, and they both ended up in LA, did not know each other, and they met in LA, and they ended up creating me. And but yeah, I don't remember LA. We moved back to Rhode Island, or New England, basically, just because all my family lived in New England, and the schools were kind of shitty in LA, the public school systems. So, I mean, as much as I would love to know what it would be like to be living in Los Angeles, it was definitely like all my friends are in Rhode Island and everything, and I definitely like Rhode Island. But so yeah, so we moved to Rhode Island, and we lived in East Providence for a little bit, and then my sister got we lived in a duplex in East Providence, And then my sister got born. We needed more room. We moved to a bigger house in East Providence. Um, and so this is where it gets interesting. I was born with a speech impediment, uh, and I I did not talk. I couldn't really talk till about 1, 2 years old, and even when I was about 2, 3, I was just kind of like I wasn't really like actually saying words. So when I lived in East Providence, my parents got me a speech therapist. Her name was Miss Bell. I've been trying to find her. So if anybody is watching this video that knows a Miss Bell that worked as a speech therapist in East Providence, I would love to meet her again. But she worked with me for a while, and she picked out all my teachers for East Providence. And but then she retired, and she didn't pick any more of my teachers. That school kind of was failing, and we moved to Coventry. Uh, I mentioned the speech therapist thing though because I'm now majoring in communications, and um, I host a radio show, and this is my second podcast I've gone on, which is just interesting because I had a speech impediment when I didn't talk, so that is interesting. And I wouldn't be anywhere where I am today without Miss Bell, so that's why I've been trying to find her. But anyway, we moved to Coventry. My mom works in the school system. My dad is a web designer. Uh, Sometimes I wish I knew my parents when in LA. They seemed like more fun, kind of. Um, I mean, my parents are both very nice people. For a long time growing up, my dad was. I mean, he was always at the office and would work late all the time. And I don't know, he would just come home and not seem that happy. He'd really only have the weekends, and on the weekends he didn't do much. He's gone through a character arc, definitely. As I've grown up, I've seen him try to get a lot more free time and try to go out more and do more. He goes on hikes now, so it's good to see him that way. But for a lot of me growing up, he was just kind of always it didn't seem happy, and he I mean, he would like because he works in Massachusetts, kind of far in Mass, and so like if he was working really late, because he would work extra hours, not because he needed to, just because he kind of felt like I don't know, he's kind of he was a workaholic for a bit, so he would stay late, and then he would like have to stay at a hotel sometimes, and so I didn't really see him during the week that much, or if I did, he'd be home late. And so that kind of just for me, from a very young age, I never wanted to do some kind of work where I'm in an office all day, just kind of. I always kind of wanted to do something like I considered being a teacher when I was younger. I considered a whole lot of different things. I just knew I never wanted to be in that office kind of situation.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that was going to be one of my questions if you didn't go into it. Was like, you hear the stereotype of like the father figure going to the office or going to his job, coming home miserable, and not always seeing the positives of your father because he's putting in the work in the office. And
Yeah.
a lot of the time they're doing that to better their family.
No,
So
exactly.
yeah,
And he's a great guy. And I don't think I realized that when I was younger. I was like, man, fuck him. He's not home. And then as I kind of got older, I realized, he was doing it for us, but he wasn't putting himself first, which is very selfless. And uh, but I always wanted to be like, I wanted to have when I eventually have a family, I want to build a strong foundation, but also be there and be happy.
yeah, being more present. And I think we're seeing that like a lot more in like millennials and Gen Z parents, and like I've seen like the trends on like TikTok or Instagram reels and stuff like that of like both parents being more involved in like raising
Yeah,
their kid because they grew up with one of their parents or both their parents working and not always having the time
Yeah.
to put into them. And it's not because they
We
didn't.
saw it as a
Yeah,
yeah.
it's not like they didn't love us as kids. They were doing it to try to better their families and put everyone in a better position to succeed in life. And that's what you should be doing as a parent. But at the same time, as we've developed as people and gained a little bit more intelligence about emotions and understanding how like the parent child dynamic works, being there, being present is such a huge aspect in raising children where we're
100%.
not always recognizing that as we're being parents, because we're also doing it for the first time a lot of the times, for at least first time parents and younger parents. For
And when people have kids too, their first thought is, I need to provide for my kids. I need money, I need this. And I think some people just need to stop and slow down and think, well, how can I do both? How can I benefit my children and benefit being there for them too as well?
yeah, and I've heard, I can't remember the exact quote, but I was talking about specifically boys and their fathers, about first you kind of like idolize them, then you villainize them, and then
Yes.
you understand them.
Yes.
And that really resonated with me because growing up, like, my dad was the superhero. And then as I got older and became a shitty teenager, like,
Fuck you, dad.
yeah,
Yeah.
just getting into that. He was my coach for a lot of things, so it added another layer of stress and tension in the relationship. But as I got older, I understood everything that he was trying to do for us and did for us. Like, I don't end up in the positions that I am in if he doesn't do what he did as a father and as a man in general, in putting his family first and doing the things that he did, helped me get into position to where I am today, even having a conversation with you. Like,
Yeah.
that's the thing about having great parents is you don't always see it sometimes as a kid, and you wish they might be a little bit more present or a little bit more nicer to you in the moment or understanding, but they're doing things most of the time out of love and a caring for
They have
you.
good places in their hearts.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
want to put you in the best position to succeed, and you don't always see that.
Even if it doesn't seem like that, they're doing what's best for you. And it took me a little bit to realize that.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what I was like gathering from what, as you were kind of talking about that, is like I've even gone through similar things with my relationship with my dad, and just like looking at the way that he was, and he would work a lot, but then I, as I got older, as I mentioned, he did coach a lot of our sports, and like as someone who's in the workforce now, like I actually realized like how tough that can be to like
Oh yeah.
get the time out of work to go be a part of your
Be with
kid's
your
life in
I like
sports.
you said though, I think there is a trend of people finding a balance of our generation. I mean, I worked at a swim school for a little bit, and I would do like tots classes. So I'd work with like little babies, and we'd do like a whole swimming class. And I would always see like younger parents, and both parents were there. They would come in the water with their kids, and that made me feel good.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's what it should be more of, more parents being involved, because it also, I feel like, creates a healthier relationship on top of that too. If your both parents are equally participating in raising their child, obviously one's gonna have to work at different times and do different things, but being more present together, if possible. Obviously, economy's tough, inflation exists, and things like
Yeah, life
that.
is
Life isn't
tough.
always perfect, but having that chance to do that, and also it's like as a parent, and I'm not a parent yet, but like I can understand like the concept, and I've listened to Jordan Peterson talk about this, especially that like 1 through like 4, 5, 6, they need their parents so much to like be raised. Like
Yeah.
you have to be there for for those children, and like you only get to go through that once. Like after that, they're gonna start becoming their own person and thinking, and they're not gonna need you as much, and they're gonna be with their friends more, and then eventually
Yeah.
their partners and stuff like that. So it's like,
Which I'm realizing that now. Like as the kid, like I was always with my mom, going to the beach with my sister, and like I was always doing stuff with my mom. And then as the time went by, when in middle school, hanging out with my friends, just doing stupid kid shit. And then high school, I had my car, so doing whatever. And then now in college, I live with my I moved away. I moved out. So I mean, yeah, and it is like it's kind of sad now that I think about it. Like I wish I I could have spent more time in the moment.
Yeah, as a kid, like when
As
you're
a kid,
really
yeah.
young and just you just don't know. Like you don't know any better. You don't know what's going to happen with life. You don't know how things are going to feel as we grow up. And the sad part about growing up is our parents get older too. Like
Yeah.
they're also growing and going through different experiences as well, and um, it creates this.
That's also one thing. I mean, definitely as like a shitty teenager, we don't realize that our parents are experiencing life too. They're growing and they're understanding things. We just see them as our parents. We don't understand fully that they are conscious beings that are experiencing life just like us.
Yeah, they had their lives, dreams, and goals before us, and
Yeah.
sometimes that gets put to the side to raise us, and you realize that as you get older, it's like damn, like what could have they done if they didn't have me when they did? Like
Well, yeah,
they
would my parents still be in LA if I wasn't born? It is interesting to think about that.
Yeah, and it's like it creates like perspective, and it can create like gratitude and appreciation for what they've done, and I think it's good that we talked about this and that it seems like your parents did a really good job overall. Like they put you and your sister at, like in
They
front
did.
of themselves a little bit, and I think that's a
Yes.
positive thing when parents do that and try to do what they can to raise their kids to be great kids. But as we start to transition, I want to get into like a little bit of childhood too.
Mhm.
Like what kind of like maybe sports or hobbies, things that you kind of did with friends or things that you did to make friends.
Yeah. Well, I will say this: music has always been a part of my life. Not as much as some kids I will see like they'll be practicing violin since 5 years old. No, that's not what I mean. More just the love of music. I mentioned a couple minutes ago I would always go to the beach with my mom and sister, and I just have a very fond memory of being in the car and just always listening to 80s music and stuff like that, and very distinct memories of me being a kid and just loving songs that were being played. And um so that was one aspect of my childhood that has led to a lot of stuff now. But I was not very athletic as a child. I did not do many sports. I did karate um for a little bit, and then I got sick of it and I quit. Um and it wasn't till so once I was in 6th grade. I was I was like the weird kid. Like I was like if you looked at me in middle school, in 6th grade especially, I was definitely like the weird, like cringy kid. And then 7th grade, I sort of started to get more outgoing. Um, I wasn't like the best at making friends either up until well, I don't know what it was, but I started actually playing basketball more. These couple kids I knew on my team in middle school. We had teams. Um, so I knew a couple of these kids from different. Like one kid was my locker. His locker was next to mine. One kid I met at a birthday party the year before. One kid I met through a mutual friend. We were all on the same team. We didn't really know anybody else either, so we all became friends. Um, and that kid that had the locker next to me lives with me now today. Um, but we all became friends. We all had very different interests, and one of the interests was of my friend Jordan was basketball and uh, rap music. He liked rap, which I had heard some modern rap. Like I mean, in 6th grade, I fucking listened to Lil Pump, and I was like, "Yo, this shit's hard, bro." But he put me on to more rap, got me into Drake a bit more. Um, nothing like crazy, but like the basics of what popular rap was at that point. And then so we just became like the best of friends, and I started getting more outgoing because I actually had good people around me. And we're still friends to this day. like very good friends still. Like I said, one of them lives with me. But and so we would just do that, and then it was funny. At one point, I had a history class, and I had this teacher, and she said we can um we can do anything we wanted for a project. Like it was on ancient civilizations, and we could do any like form of media for the project. Like you can make a slideshow, you can make a song, whatever. And I was like, fuck it, let's make a song. And I did that, and then I was like, oh shit, I like writing songs, I like recording songs. It was fun. I performed it, and everybody was like, whether they actually liked it or not, it felt good. People were clapping at it, and so I just started making more songs from there. And I've been making music since 7th grade, which sounds crazy to me. But I mean, if you listen to those songs, they're nothing special. They're not great. But once I uploaded those songs, it was like, oh shit, the middle school has a SoundCloud rapper now. Like we have, so I went from nobody really knew who I was to everybody was talking about the SoundCloud rapper at the school, which I didn't give a fuck. I loved it. I was at first it was like a joke. Um like, oh, look at this fucking SoundCloud rapper kid. And then I just kind of went with it. That was like my thing. I'm the SoundCloud rapper kid. And then in 8th grade I joined wrestling. And that just made me, I mean, my popularity go up, which popularity is not an important thing, but for an 8th grade kid, it sort of is. But I just felt a lot better about myself, and I became more outgoing, and I'd still do things with my best friends, and yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually curious to get into, and if you're not comfortable talking about like when you brought up the concept of being like the weird kid,
Yeah.
like did people in this is like obviously looking back on this like retrospectively, do you feel like people treated you like poorly or differently or maybe made fun of you, and like how does that make you feel now looking back on that if any of that had happened?
Yeah, I mean, when I like in 6th grade is really when I felt like I was like the weird kid. Um, Not necessarily because people were bullying me or anything. It was more just because like not really nobody really knew who I was. Like I would just kind of like my best friend at that point was my sister, who I'm still very good friends with, and I still but like
You'd say just more introverted, if anything?
more introverted.
Okay.
Um, but I mean, I definitely when I started releasing songs, people were like actively making fun of me to my face, which you know what I think there is a culture kind of burned into our society of just making or coming at people for their dreams and stuff like that, especially when you're younger. But like I said, I went with it, and I was like, yeah, I make music and I like making music. And now people have respected me for it. And I mean, in high school, I never got any shit for it. And actually, like, I had tons of people that I did a concert once for my friend's birthday, and a shit ton of people that didn't even know this kid I was doing the concert for just came and showed up. Like, they paid to go there. And but like nobody ever really disrespected me about it in high school. It was more middle school.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, starting out, like you're definitely opening yourself up, especially at that grade level. That's where I feel like a lot of the bullying and random shit that people throw at you
Yeah.
would definitely happen. Like, Pete, I always say like that, like 7th, 8th grade. Like if you run into a bunch of 7th and 8th graders, run away. Like those
No,
are
they're
probably some of
mean.
the
You ever seen Step Brothers?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They're mean people. Like, and I just remember just like some of my friends at that age, and like even myself on some occasions, just like not the greatest of person. Like,
Oh no, I was a piece of shit too
yeah,
in middle
it's
school.
definitely not great. And like you're going through puberty and all these hormones, and you're just starting to become a little bit more conscious, and
Yeah, and
it's just
like
not.
sometimes you fuck over your friends because you're like a horny little fucking middle schooler, and I mean, the kid that I live with now in middle school, I don't know why he stayed friends with us because we were dicks to him. He was a little overweight, and we were dicks about it. And I've apologized so many times to him now after because, like you said, I understand now who we were as middle schoolers, and I've grown up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean that's good that he's kind of let that kind of go for the most part. Like
Yeah,
obviously you don't know what he's thinking, but like we don't always know how to treat people. Like our parents can raise us a certain way, but then we get around to other kids and we think this is what we need to do to fit in, and some of it is
yeah,
human nature. Like
and
we're
make ourselves feel better too. Like,
yeah, we don't want to be the one that's getting made fun of. Like
right,
no one wants that. Like if we're being honest, and people will do almost anything to try to fit into certain scenarios or friend groups. It's like it's literally a social norm to try to do that.
right.
Um, it's like a survival instinct, honestly, because you don't want to be left out of any groups, essentially. But it's not, especially at that age. Like it's difficult because
Middle school, I feel like, is the worst of that.
yeah,
Of
it's ruthless.
yeah,
That's kind of the concept that I was kind of leaning into. It's just that's a weird time period for people to feel things, to grow up. Like
it's literally like the puberty grade. It's just
yeah, it's
yeah,
just it's kind of a lot of shit, and like try to start making music at that point or trying to create anything. Like there's no chance in hell I create a podcast or do anything remotely similar to this at that point in my life. I was not confident enough. I definitely would have got made fun of. Like I mean, kudos to you for doing that and actually trying to put it out there because like I don't know if I would have had the self confidence to to withstand some of the comments, even just like even they're friendly, they're friends, and they're just making fun of
dude. I
you.
don't know I went from an introverted kid. I don't know what happened. I was a ballsy kid. I won at the cafeteria one day. I just went up. They had a microphone at the cafeteria, and I just went up and performed one of my songs.
What?
I don't know how fucking seventh grade me had the balls to do that, but yeah.
How was that received?
Uh, a lot of people thought it was like funny, which is what I was going for then. But some people were like, I don't know. I didn't see any videos like of it bad of like people shit talking it, but that's only because I saw my friends' versions of it. So there was probably definitely. I mean, the whole cafeteria filmed it. So
How do you think you did in seventh grade version of you? Looking back on it,
um, I mean, you know what? As I will say, probably as best as a seventh grader could go up there and fucking do that. So
you have a lot of
yeah,
confidence to do that though. Like shit, like I definitely would not get in front of like the entire grade and start doing anything remotely similar to that. That's insane. But like, I mean, the fact that you can remember it and it's such a vivid experience, like it obviously had impact,
yeah.
and it's
It's
like
my first show, man.
low key stepping stone towards what you're trying to accomplish. And I want to continue with the conversation as you're getting older, and we'll kind of backtrack to the music point
Yeah.
as we go past this. But getting towards like that senior year time frame, like what's kind of going on in your mindset about like looking at post high school? Is college on the table? Is college not on the table? Like what are the influences? What's the path for you at this point?
Yeah, so I go to CCRI right now. Um for those that don't know, we're watching this. CCRI Community College of Rhode Island is free for 2 years right after you if you go right after high school and you're a Rhode Island resident. Um Now I had always as a kid wanted to go to out of state, go somewhere, and I still do, and you can transfer after the 2 years to anywhere. But I figured it will be cheaper, I will be less in debt if I go 2 free years and then I transfer to whatever my dream school, which is UCLA, and then I'll be paying less money for 2 years than I would for 4 years. But yeah, I go to CC right now. I major in communications slash film. Um, and I think it's I mentioned to you earlier before the show started, I moved out with my friend to get that college experience, which it is a lot of money, like just kind of evaporating. But it is fun because I still feel like I'm in college, having that freedom, but I'm also paying less for something that will um like pursue. I can help me pursue my dreams and everything.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I mean, if you're going to community college for free at this point, like you're saving money there, so getting the apartment isn't as such a bad thing
Exactly.
because you're also getting that college quote unquote experience.
And it's a year lease, so and then after that it's month to month,
Yeah,
so I can just be like, all right, I'm done with this, and
move on if
and
that
move
is what you
on. Yeah,
want. Yeah, and I think this is a good topic with the community college aspect. Was that like introduced into your school? Was it like because like I know when I was coming up and I graduated in 2014 from high school, um, community college was definitely looked down on.
yeah.
And I don't know if it's still the same now, but looking back on it, I definitely wish I would have went to community college first because of like the
Because of
cheaper
the
costs.
benefits. Yeah,
Yeah, and it wasn't like portrayed that way when I was growing up. So I'm interested to know if it's similar.
I will say I mentioned earlier. I wonder like what it would be like to be living in LA right now, but at the same time, Rhode Island, I believe, is the only state that offers the 2 free year college thing, which is a great opportunity. Now you asked about if it's frowned upon. I think silently it's still a little frowned upon, especially from the people that went to universities. I mean, I have friends, tons of friends that went to universities, and none of them have like shamed me or said anything about it. But I mean, they probably definitely are feeling, oh, like I'm at the better school. I mean, I can't blame them for that. I mean, like you said, for years, community college has been frowned upon, and like I said, they've never said anything bad to me. And you know what? They might not even be thinking that way, but I'm sure some people do. Um, and I had it frowned. I mean, yes, the school introduced it. They told us all about it. Um, and actually, my guidance counselor suggested I should do it because I was thinking about taking a gap year after high school. And he was just like, "Yeah, just go to CC." I could have gotten into a university, um, but if I'm being honest, my senior year, I didn't even like apply anywhere. I didn't write any letters or any like. I didn't get. I didn't. I wrote my college essay because it was like a graduation requirement, but I didn't submit it anywhere because I knew why not just go to CC.
Was that the thought process the whole time, or did you want to
Yeah,
go to university? Was like it just
yeah. I always wanted to, and then I mean, the opportunity just kind of. I mean, I heard about it and I was like, yeah, you know what? My parents are still paying off their college debt. Why not have to pay as much debt as that? And I was like, yeah, fuck it. If I move out with my friends, I'll still get, I'll still have fun during college. Um, but and all my friends, like I still get to hang out with all. I know a lot of people that moved out of state and they don't really see their friends anymore, their close friends. Eventually, I want to move out of state. I do want to experience other things other than Rhode Island, but for now, I still get all my friends, and it's kind of dope.
yeah? And I think if you get the opportunity and if you do choose to leave the state, highly recommend. I think
I definitely want to.
yeah,
Yeah,
getting out definitely creates a whole different life perspective in general. I think I was telling you about a little bit of my journey to Texas and Georgia, and I mean none of this even happens if I don't do that. Like
right, right.
part of the reason was just getting out of the day-to-day routine of the people that I was around, and not saying they're bad people, but doing the things of just like partying and going out. Like I needed a change of scenery, and
And I sort of feel that way too. Now, nothing against my friends, but I like, Rhode Island's only so big. I've done kind of everything there is to do here. Um, but once CC's over, I'm comfortable with where I'm at right now. But once I graduate CC after these 2 years, I want to move back to LA because I had only lived there for a year, and kind of I went back on a trip and I was like, oh shit, I want to live here. It seems fun.
Yeah, and if you end up going down that path, I think it'll open up a lot of opportunities, especially music wise, to see
Yes.
different things and
Or
experience things.
communications wise, that
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
The opportunities are definitely endless when you go into like closer towards major cities or big universities like that to get those things. But again, to hit on the point, I think you're doing the right thing with the community college aspect of it and taking your time and using an asset that's offered to you is like if you're able to get 2 free years and in the end when you transfer to a university you get the same degree as everybody else but you save the
Right.
money and
Exactly.
that's the one thing is like obviously if I can give you any advice is just make sure you take like care of like the schooling part like make sure you do good at CC and then when you transfer out
Yeah,
it's
don't get
it's
lost in the partying.
don't get lost in that and like the fact that it's free and you're not paying for it 'cause sometimes when you don't pay for it you don't feel it as much and even when you're paying for it in college you don't see it right away until you get the bill later in the end
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah,
so
everyone right now they're just like, "Oh shit, I got this dorm." Like everybody's drinking, and then like a couple months, and it's 10,000 for the semester, and they're just like, "Fuck."
yeah easily racks up a bill and you don't realize how much you're paying until you get the check and I forget it's like 6 months to a year or something you have to start paying it back depending on if it's what loan it is and um, someone that works in the accounting finance like realm and understanding that stuff like you don't want to let that stuff sit out there and that's the scary thing is
Yeah.
like we're not teaching and maybe it's gotten better I don't know maybe you could speak to that but like I feel like when I was coming up the education around finances in college it was like almost non-existent like you had to apply for FAFSA and all that but like you weren't taught like interest rates and like how important it is to pay attention to that or you
No.
should pay off this
I
and
will I took a class that was required in high school, math of finance, and that really was a good class. Like we talked about investment like savings accounts to get like the IRAs and
Mhm.
shit like that. Very good class, but I 100% agree with you. Nothing about the actual real world is really taught in high school.
Yeah, it's actually like sorry, I don't even know why it's doing that.
Oh, you're good.
I actually don't. I've turned off Siri on my phone, so that's actually really weird that it just came on. Um, completely derailed my thought right there because I had such a good follow up. What it had to do with college and fuck, what was it? Oh man, it's gonna piss me off. I was like right on the good track with that. Oh
Sorry,
man,
this shit happens to me all the
I
time.
literally lost that. It totally distracted me. Um, regardless, I want to continue with the conversation. Well, if it comes back to me, I'll bring it up at some point. But I
Mhm.
want to continue with it to start diving into the music stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of walk me through, and we're gonna go back a little bit in time, obviously, because we're gonna go towards like the middle school, high school phase. Since you've been working on music for such a long time, talk to me about the transition through the grade schools, basically, with your music and how you started to work on music, to write on music after that project, essentially.
Yeah, so I mean, at that point in time, like I said, I was getting more into hip hop because of my friend. He was putting me onto some songs because I had never really listened to Drake before, or like I said, I listened to like some of the SoundCloud guys, but I was getting more into like Drake, Uzi, these sorts of guys that are 21 Savage that are like actually skilled rappers and not just fucking Gucci Gang, Gucci Gang, Gucci Gang. Um, but I wasn't like a hip hop enthusiast. Now I would consider myself a hip hop enthusiast. But at that point, I was making, I would take a beat from YouTube, release it on SoundCloud, and it would be like a basic. I had a song called Lambos and Rambo. And you can imagine the brain level of that song. But and I would dye my hair crazy colors to kind of be emulate those SoundCloud era rappers. Uh, and then so then in high school, I was doing more. I was making like I'd still release music and everything. But also it's high school. I I had other things going on as well. I had joined wrestling in 8th grade, but I continued it throughout all of high school. Um, but sophomore year was kind of a rough year for me. I um I would like I was definitely getting into some things I should not be getting into, such as substance wise.
Mhm.
Um and I wasn't like trying to escape from anything. I wasn't like really depressed. I just more was like I don't really know why. I was just kind of fucking having fun, having too much fun. And I got this girlfriend that was not healthy, and I was not going on a good track sophomore year. I was still making music and everything, but I mean, I wasn't really taking much seriously. And then I don't really know. There was a I don't know if this was the exact reason that stopped it. I went to like ALC a couple times for getting in trouble, but I had a teacher who I really liked, and I gained like a fondness of history. I really liked history. Probably had to do with doing that project as well. But I had this history teacher who I really liked, and one day she just was like, she straight up said, and I don't really remember why she said it, but it stuck with me. And she was like, I think you're more of a follower than a leader." And I was like, "What the fuck? You can't say that. You're my teacher. Why are you saying that?" But that was like, it stuck with me. And she was a very nice woman. I didn't say that to her. I didn't say like, "What the fuck?" But I was just like kind of taken aback. But then I just kind of wanted to prove that wrong. I started my next year, junior year of high school. I started doing really well in school. And you know what it was too? That same teacher, because I had liked history, I asked her if I could be in honors history, and she was like, "I don't know, like you do all this, like you mess around in class, you get in trouble," and she she looked at my star reading scores, and I had an above college reading level. And she was like, "Oh shit, yeah, you can go in your honors history class." This was after the whole leader follower conversation. But that just made me really change my mind as well, because I was like, "Oh shit, like shit, I guess I'm smart, like a little smart or something, and I could do something." Um, and I like making music, and I really started getting into rap. Like I would listen to more people like Tyler the Creator, Kendrick, people that are like lyrically intelligent. JID. Oh, I love JID. J Cole. Um, so I'd start getting into them. I was doing well in school. I had my honors history class. I was also in AP government. And I just really gained confidence. Like I had always, like I said in middle school, I got more outgoing. But now in high school, through my junior year, through everything going on that I was doing, I just gained confidence, and I felt so much better about myself. I realized I loved music, I loved making rap songs. I joined the radio station at my school, and I ended up going from there. And I won an award my senior year for the radio station, for my work at the radio station. Um, but it just showed me how much, if I really put my mind to it, I can do anything. And I did well in wrestling that year too, and I just had a good mindset that year. Everything was going well. The t- toxic girlfriend's gone, um, and I was like, "Oh shit!" And so now, I think ever since then, I've just really been trying to grind on what I really want to do in life, which is make music. And so I've been. I mean, I got to go on the Low Gravity podcast. I've been doing this podcast now, and I'm not really here. I mean, I'm here to promote, obviously, but I also just want to share my story for other people as well, because if you always can be at a point where you feel like, like what am I gonna do in my life? And I've also realized that without, like, even if I don't blow up as a famous rapper or whatever, music has always been important in my life. And I want to do something with that, whether it's producing beats, which I work on that now. I make beats. And I DJ professionally now. And that kind of just fell into itself too. Through the radio station, I went to go, my friend asked me to DJ his party. I did that. And then there were DJs there. I started working with them, and now I have my own trivia gig. And so that all kind of fell in place just because it's what I like doing, is what I was passionate about. And that's, I think, my message is, if you really are into what you're doing, you like what you're doing, other stuff will come with that. And hopefully, the, what I'm really passionate about, if I keep working on it and doing, uh, keep crafting it and keep making it better and better, more will come with that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I like the way that you kind of walked through the progression of kind of where you are, and you're still going through stuff. You're still learning stuff. You're still very early on in your process
Yes,
of creation
yes.
and music.
I don't
And
want to sound like I know everything.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, no, and I think that's great authenticity there, and like you're in a new place where you're gaining new experiences, like doing low gravity or doing this podcast, doing your radio station, DJing, and doing the trivia. Like it's all different things that it's helping build confidence and get yourself out there and work on skills. And it's a chance where you get to document yourself and look back and reflect. And I think reflection is one of the most amazing things that we get to do as people. And I think that's why I
yeah.
love doing this podcast, is because when people come on this podcast, you get a chance to actually reflect a little bit.
Look back. I mean, you just had me talking right there, and I was thinking about it. I was physically like picturing everything I was just talking about, which it feels great.
Yeah, and it's just a chance to like tell your story
Yeah,
authentically about who you are and what you've gone through. And I like the fact that you kind of even talked about um hold on. What I was about to say was like the fact that you brought up the comment that your teacher made, and I thought that was like really interesting because it's sometimes hard to like take constructive criticism from someone, especially something like that. If someone says like you're
yeah.
not a leader,
Something like that, straight up. Like, I wanted to be like, "What the fuck you?" Like, I'm a fucking leader, but clearly that pushed me.
yeah, and I think sometimes you do need someone to push you when you don't know you need to be pushed, and like especially from a teacher, it was obviously bringing something to light that you might not have noticed. And obviously you were going through different things at that time period, but having someone say, hey, you're a follower, not a leader, and that actually sparking something inside of you to be like, no, I'm going to prove them wrong, that I could
Yeah,
actually be someone and I could lead and I have thoughts and I don't just follow whoever is in front of me and I could be my own person. And I think that's important to establish that, and to be able to establish that at such a young age is crucial, because we see so many kids nowadays get sucked into different phases of the internet and people that they follow or creators that they're interested in. They try
yeah.
to emulate that versus just being their own person. And so to have a teacher
And that's what I
speak
had to
on that is
realize with my
huge.
music. Because my most recent song that I've released, Reincarnation, it's about that. It's two halves of the song. The first half is me dissing some people from Coventry, like some people that I went to school with. Um, the second half of the song, it's in the first half I used like a YouTube beat. The second half I created the beat, and I made there's like a monologue, and it's right before that, and it's about like, you know what, fuck that. I've graduated now. I want to be who I want to be. I'm gonna make music how I'm gonna make music, and then the second half of the song is a completely different vibe than the first half. Which, it's a weird way I did it, but I thought it was like my own creativity in there.
Yeah, and I think it's good to like experiment with your music and stuff like that. And I wanted to ask, this is kind of a deep question. You could take this where you feel necessary, but what does the music mean to you to be able to create the music and have your own music out there? What does music mean to you?
Well, we were talking about this earlier too. Like, at some point, I found a Muse, which is an online record label, where you can submit your music um, on YouTube Music, on Apple Music, on Spotify, and so my music's on all the platforms, and it just feels great to see that that's there. Like I can actually tell somebody that, oh, go look up Reincarnation by Jin Jet. That's my rap name, and they'll go look it up, and they can play it. Like people, I don't need to be there to play it for them. People can play it all over the world, and that feels great to have that. But I mean, music in general, um, it feels it's nice to create something. I mean, 100%. I will say this: there are some people that are into music for the fame. They don't care about their actual music. They just like remember when like 6ix9ine was popular. He didn't care about his music. He cared about the money and the publicity. I will say this: yes, I really want money from my songs. And it would be great to be this fucking big celebrity and famous. 100%. I'm not claiming that I don't want that. But there's also 100% of me that also just loves being able to be creative and just put my own words into something and make it almost poetic, or at least I feel as it's poetic. And my songs that I'm working on, that are my songs that are released, and the EP that I'm working on are all sort of telling a story, or at least in my head they are. Some person could listen to them and be like, this shit makes no sense. But for me, it tells a story that's going on in my head, and it's sort of the story of me. And I like that I can do that, and I can tell a story my way, and maybe one day inspire somebody else. That is one of my other main goals too. Is just, I mean, with this Reincarnation song, my goal is that I hope somebody hears this and realizes, just be yourself. Just make whatever, create whatever you want to do. I mentioned Tyler the Creator earlier. Dude, he fucking, his albums are whatever the fuck he wants, but it's all just stories in his head. He can tell a whole story. Um, and then he creates designs, he creates clothes, he does whatever comes to his mind, and he is a creative person. And you just got to unlock that creativity and just put your whole self into something. And that is what I try to inspire into people.
Yeah, I think that's amazing because when we're trying to figure out passions or purposes and things of that nature, things that add meaning or add fulfillment to your life, it comes down to creating something. And a lot of the time it's going to be something artistic, and it might be something like music, it might be a podcast, it might be a book. Like
Right.
having a channel to release stuff is so valuable because
It could be tats.
it could be
It could be
tattoos.
tats.
Like there's so many different variations of things that are going to make you feel a certain way and release something about yourself. When you get to
Mhm.
see your music on Apple and Spotify and stuff, or when I see my podcast, it elicits this feeling of like euphoria, like I've like accomplished something, like I could share it, like you're saying, with people. And
Mhm.
having those channels to do that is so valuable because not everybody has that in their life. So unlocking that is huge, and for you to unlock it at such a young age, that's incredible to have something like that you could work on. And I think it's incredibly like honest about the fact about money and fame. Like, sure, I would love if this podcast was like top 10 on Spotify or Apple
Yeah.
and I made tons of money, but that's not the reason I started this. That was never the reason. Like, is there a part of me that wanted that? Sure. Like, the ego is going to always be there, but at the same time, it was highlighting and having conversations and making connections. Like, I don't know if we ever meet if I do this podcast. Who knows? But here we are having a
Yeah. Right.
conversation because
Exactly.
you make music and I do a podcast.
Yeah. And
And
that's sick.
yeah, and
That's cool as fuck.
to be able to have that conversation and relate on so many different things, when we come from different lives, we're different ages, we have
Well,
different
we
backgrounds,
create different things, but we have an understanding of each other's creativity.
and it's the arts that bring us together, and having that purpose and having that passion, and a lot of that is inspiring. like to bring to other people and helping other people and showing that you can do something. Like, sure, when I started this podcast, there was probably people like, "The fuck's he doing a podcast for? Like a
Yeah.
podcast?" And I can imagine people in your life. It's like he's making music. Like really?
It's
Like
fucking white rapper.
yeah, and it's like
Yeah.
they're always gonna judge at first, but the longer you do it, the more consistently you do it, the more they understand this is just kind of part of who you are and what you like to do, and they can appreciate it more. They
Yeah.
might not always like what you do. Like people might not like my podcast and people might not like your music, but it isn't always
And
for
I don't
them.
know who I would be if there wasn't music involved in my life now. I don't know what I'd be doing right now.
Yeah, I don't know what I'd be doing right now, and well, probably with my girlfriend now, and she probably would love that. But like in general, like before having a relationship and stuff like that, I used to go out and party and stuff, and like that was part of the reason I did the podcast was I didn't want to do that anymore. Like I was past that. Like, what's the point of spending all this money and having these memories that I'm not going to really remember at
Yeah,
the end of
'cause
the
you were
time?
drunk and
And
yeah.
partying, it's like sure, it's a great time in the moment, but it's not
But you'll
lasting.
always remember that you did this.
This will always be
Like,
there as long as the internet's there.
like yeah,
Like,
when you're an old man, your friend may be like, "Do you remember that one time you got blacked out?" And you'll be like, "Oh yeah," but this, you don't need anybody to provoke your memory on this. This is a constant thing. You've been doing this. You will never forget doing this. You will never forget writing a book.
yeah, and it's coming back to that concept that we had off podcast about legacy. Like,
Mhm.
what are you leaving behind? What are people going to remember you for? And I hope people can remember me for the conversations that I had and the fact that I was able to maybe bring some meaning and purpose to other people's lives and spotlighting great things that other people do. Like,
Yeah.
because it's not always about
Oh,
you.
I know some of the kids I graduated with that like I'm not friends with, or like that I just kind of like acquaintances with, will just remember me as a fucking rapper. But that's dope. I love that. I love that they'll remember me as a rapper.
And
That's,
I think it's good. Like,
yeah,
and it's being remembered for something. Like,
yeah.
I'd rather be remembered for something than
I'd rather be forgotten in 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's like at least they remember you for doing something and stuff like that. We are getting towards like the back end of the conversation, so I want to start wrapping up
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff like
of
that.
course, yeah.
I have that one more question for you, but I wanted to ask. So you mentioned the EP and stuff like that. Like, what kind of projects and goals and stuff do you have going forward?
Yeah, so I mean, I have like a very ADHD mind. I have a lot of projects on the back of my head. The one thing that I am 100%, because you know, when you have that ADHD mind, you, some things you'll start doing you won't finish, but there are those one couple things that you love doing that you will finish. I am working on an EP. I had to kind of put music aside for a couple months just because I just started college. I started a new job with college, the apartment, everything. I live in the city now, and so my life's been a bit more busier, but I've been finding ways to manage my schedule now, and I'm getting back on track with where I was before on the music. And I ordered a mic. I'm ordering a whole bunch of equipment to just better perfect my music. Um, I actually, right before I came on here, I reached out to to the Met in Pawtucket, trying to see if I can perform there, just because I'm trying to perform at more places, put my name out there. I've made flyers. I'm gonna hang around CC. But my EP right now that I'm working on, the working title is called "The Reincarnation of Mr. Rye." That was like sort of my nickname. Um, and I'm gonna have a couple songs because my main thought process was, you know, it's hard to promote a singular song every time, like, because I've dropped a shit ton of songs, but it's hard to promote a singular song every time because you know you gotta put the classic, like put it on your story, all that. But at some point, some people are gonna get bored of you just posting a song every now and then that's yours. So I'm combining a couple songs that are all sort of in one story, um, and plus adding two additional songs. Both of them have the beats made for it, lyrics written. I'm just waiting for this mic to come in to make it fully sound good and perfect it. And I'm putting those together to fully tell a story about reincarnation, about leaving the my old self behind, embracing my old self, but becoming who I really want to be.
I think that's amazing and awesome, and I like that you're investing in your equipment and investing in what you want to do. And I wish you a ton of luck with that, and hopefully
Thank
you
you.
get more performances and get to keep doing that. And I encourage the artistic endeavor. Like I think it's awesome that you do this, and it takes a lot of courage to release music. And I always applaud anyone that could actually create anything and try to post it, because not everyone can do it. Not everyone can have the courage to actually post that type of stuff. And I think it's amazing that you do that type of stuff.
Thank you.
I do have one more question for you. So, what would your advice be for someone who wants to pursue their passion?
For somebody that wants to pursue their passion, um, I'm just gonna tell the audience right now. Before I came on here, before we actually did the live show, I was told not to say "just do it," um, because you've heard people say "just do it" every time. And I kind of said this to you earlier. I think the answer is just do it, but it's easier said than done. I mean, there's been tons of assholes all over media that say, just do it, bro. Fucking be an alpha. You gotta believe in yourself. Um, you gotta just find what makes you happy, find what makes you passionate, and really don't listen to people. Tune it out, because people are gonna shit on you for whatever you're doing. You will find good people that will support you and love all the shit that you're doing. Um, don't listen to people that are trying to bring you down, because fuck them, right? They're just trying to bring you down. So you just got to believe in yourself. Find people that believe in you as well. And I don't mean just like lasers. Find people that will give you constructive criticism. Find people that will hear your music out and be honest with you, like, hey, you need to work on this. Or I said music, but whatever it is you're doing. Um, and really perfect your craft. If you like doing something, do it well, but do it in your own way. And tune everybody out, and then just continue doing what you're doing, make it your own thing, and just keep doing what you're doing. And like I said earlier, what you're passionate about, other things will come from that. Like me doing the radio station, me DJing came from that. If you just continue to stick with what you're doing, no matter what, other things, more benefits will come from that, even if it's little ways to enter that.
Perfect. I really like that because you built on the just do it, and it wasn't just do it. Like
Yeah,
that was really good. And the continuation, and the stuff that comes from it, like if I don't keep doing a podcast, I don't know if I ever get to the book. Like it's keep doing the thing, and other things will come from that.
exactly.
And I think that's a great message for people.
Just keep perfecting it. Keep working on your craft, and also realize that you're never an expert on what you're. Nobody's an expert on what they're doing. Just keep working on it. You'll never be an expert, but you'll get your shit pretty damn good. Nobody's an expert.
Yeah, I think that's true. It's the whole Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours thing, and you got to put in the work to even remotely come close to being some type of master or expert. And
Yeah,
the knowledge and pursuit of knowledge or learning never stops. Like,
exactly.
and it's just up to the person to keep learning in their industry. But Riley, I appreciate you for coming on this podcast and talking to me. If you want to look
Of
into this
course.
camera and you could plug all your music and stuff, where do people find you?
Yes. So first thing, Old Pickle, the Old Pickle restaurant on in Lincoln, Rhode Island, on Tuesday nights at 7, trivia night. I'll be hosting it if you want to go. If you're in Rhode Island, my music, Jinget. Reincarnation is my most latest song, but some of my other good songs are SoundCloud Rapper and Running Around. They're kind of about what I was talking about today. My EP, if you follow me on Instagram, it's Ginjet123. All my social medias are pretty much just Ginjet in some kind of format. TikTok is just Ginjet. Uh, I'll be updating everybody on my EP. I'll be posting snippets soon. But you can go listen. I have a lot of songs out right now. I even have one with fucking Warak from like the Rhode Island rap group. I kind of made that one as like as a little joke, but that one that people really like that one. So go check. It's called Rhode Island Got the Smoke, and yeah, just check me out. JANGET. Thank you.
Perfect. And again, appreciate you for sitting down and having this conversation with me.
Yeah, of course. Oh, one more thing. CCRI Radio every Monday and Wednesday. Monday 1 to 2, Wednesday 4 to 5. I'll be there.
Perfect. For you guys like the podcast, please rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your family, share with your grandma. Check out the carrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major listening platforms. And if you'd like to be a guest or return as a guest, hit me up on Instagram at @randomcarroll or at the Carroll Connection, and we'll set that up. And I don't know if I said about the YouTube, but check it out on there, Carroll Connection or Jared Carroll, and shit pop right up for you. And again, plug in the book, The 5 Pillars to Create a Meaningful Life, available on Amazon now. Please get the book. Please rate it. Please review it. Would mean the world to me. And until next time, guys. Peace.